A real estate tycoon, a reality TV star, and the 45th president of the United States. Donald Trump is, without a doubt, one of the most influential and controversial political figures in recent American history, and his impact is still being felt all across the globe. So, who exactly is Donald Trump? Is he simply a businessman who reached the very pinnacle of politics? Or is he a force of nature that completely shook up the established order? Well, in this explainer, we're going to try and find some answers. All right, let's start this journey. We'll look at his path from businessman to the White House, dive into his America First policies, examine his influence after leaving office, and finally take a look at his impact on the world. So, the story here begins long before politics ever entered the picture. And it's really important to understand that Donald Trump was already a household name before his political career, but in a totally different world. His journey kicked off in 1946 in New York. By the 80s, he had already taken his father's real estate business to incredible new heights. But then, in 2004, the TV show The Apprentice turned him from just a businessman into a full-blown celebrity. And you could argue that very fame was the foundation for his stunning victory in the 2016 presidential election. Now, after he became president, his time in office was really defined by a single slogan: America First. So let's take a look at what that ideology actually meant in practice. America First wasn't just a catchphrase. It was the absolute core of his entire policy platform. It meant prioritizing American jobs, which led him to renegotiate several major trade agreements. It meant tightening borders, which we saw play out in his immigration policies. And on the world stage, it meant putting American interests above any and all global alliances. So what happened after he left the White House? And why does he remain such a major force in politics even today? Let's find out. Even after leaving the White House, Donald Trump's influence really hasn't faded. He has an incredibly loyal support base that sees him as a leader who gives them a voice. And because of that, his every opinion, his every move, continues to steer the direction of American politics. So, what is his active role in American politics right now? Well, what's he up to today? He is completely active. On one hand, he's connecting with his supporters through election campaigns and massive rallies. On the other, he's heavily influencing the direction of the Republican Party. And woven through all of this, he's also navigating several significant legal battles. And all this activity is exactly what makes him such a polarizing figure, someone who people have very, very strong and divided opinions about. This is really the paradox of his public persona. For his supporters, he's a strong leader who fights against the system. Meanwhile, his critics believe that his rhetoric and his policies are a threat to democratic institutions. You have two completely opposite viewpoints here, and both are held very passionately. Okay, now let's broaden our perspective a little and look at his influence on the global stage. This statement, which is taken from our source material, is a perfect example of his direct and unconventional approach to foreign policy. His communication style often challenged traditional diplomacy and completely reshaped his relationships with leaders all over the world. His America First policies and unpredictable statements really redefined global alliances and sparked brand new debates all around the world. The impact of his actions was felt far, far beyond the borders of the U.S. So, the bottom line is this: whether you support him or oppose him, one thing is crystal clear. Donald Trump remains a central figure who absolutely dominates political discussions both in America and across the globe. And that brings us to our final question. What will be the lasting legacy of this man who went from businessman to president? How will history remember him? That is a question that only time will be able to answer.